Hi, I'm theciaellis, and welcome to Grandma's Homestead. Okay, I've already done a podcast on my word of the year, but I always also do one for this channel also. And basically, I'm going to just look at my notes and tell you everything I said on that, but it just won't be completely duplicated, but it will be a little bit. First of all, let's talk about the concept of the word of the year. I learned about the word of the year from Nicole Sauce. From her Living Free in Tennessee podcast, and she had learned it from Jenny Hill, who was one of her listeners and part of that community. And actually, Jenny's part of a lot of communities now. It's really cool. And as what's even cool from that, I got to meet Jenny a couple of years ago, and I actually would consider her a friend because we still communicate every once in a while. So that's, text and messaging and stuff like that. But generally, and people start as early as October because it takes a while, a lot of times, for you to figure out what do you want to choose for your word of the year for the next year. And then usually about this time, people kind of start announcing what it is that they have chosen. So you sit down in introspection and you start thinking, what are my goals for the coming year? What has changed in my life this past year? And what area do I want to excel in? And what do I want to focus on? I can go from what Nicole had said in the past too. She was struggling with all the things that she had put on her plate and chosen hone for her word, H-O-N-E. And hone was a word that helped her remind her to narrow down her focus on things so that she can work on specific goals. Basically, if a really cool shiny object came up, an opportunity came up, if it didn't fit into what her goals were or what she could have the time to do, she would not do it because she was honing her time. And so I had chosen prosper last year, and I don't know, it wasn't last year, it was the year before, and I didn't put it up where I could see it, and I didn't pay attention to it, and it kind of slipped off my brain. So I do encourage you, when you do finally choose your word of the year, that you put it where you see it so you can focus on it and center on what it is that you want to accomplish for the year. And so I did do that. A few years ago, I had chosen the word thrive, and that was a good word for me. Thrive was a very good word. It helped me take my mind off the stresses that I was under at the time, and it was also the reason I came up with live until you die. This is a phrase that I actually loved and put it in my videos and stuff for a long time, and for some reason I kind of let it slip off too. So you will probably start hearing me say it more often than not, because I do feel very strongly that you should live until you die. Don't sit in front of television. Don't rust away. Get up and be somebody, that type of thing, to the best of your ability. Frequently, when I learn of a new concept like word of the year and stuff, I listen and go, yeah, that sounds cool. That's something else. But to me, that was one more thing in my life to learn, to implement, and I felt like I was way too busy. But as I continued to learn more about it and listen, I thought, okay, this is a good way. This was a good concept for me and my life, and that's when I started coming up with my own word of the year. For some of us, introspection is more difficult than what we to admit. It's kind of like reading your own label when you're inside the jar. In other words, you have to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I really? What is important to me? And how important is it? And these questions have to be answered while you decide what it is that you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what you want to conquer for the next year. Another concept many of these people discover as they focus on the word they have chosen, they find a dark side to it. And I have not necessarily have come across that, but a lot of people have come across it enough that as they are choosing their word of the year, what is the dark side? And I'll explain that to you in a moment so that you can understand what I'm saying. Look at it from all angles when you're looking at your word. So, for example, like the word grow. This is a word that Nicole Sauce had chosen 2 or 3 years ago. And she had wanted to grow her coffee company. She wanted to grow her consulting business. She wanted to grow her podcast, and she's trying to run a homestead. She did, life in general. And because she was trying to grow everything and do all the things to make it grow, she got too busy and got sick. And that's why she, the next year, came up with the word hone, so that she could focus on what she really wanted and what was important, what she could actually really do and accomplish. And so that's how she had chosen that. So instead of throwing the spaghetti to the wall and see what would stick, she decided to focus. Sometimes a word chooses you. And I spent time in introspection to come up with my own word this year, but only one word kept persistently coming up. And when I was focusing on it, and I wasn't thrilled with this word, but sometimes you just can't ignore what's being told to you. But then I finally come to realize it probably was the best word for me. So instead of words like live, prosper, thrive, succeed, my word for the year of 2025 is transition. And as you can imagine, the word transition can, in this day and age, can conjure up the desire to attempt to change my body from female to male. And although the work I do is generally work that men do, I like being a girl, I like being a woman. I have no desire to change into a man. This is a different type of transition. When I graduated, and okay, if you think about this, we all go through series of transitions in our life from one thing or from one reason or another. We moved every 2 to 4 years when I was growing up because of what my dad's job did. When I graduated, after a few months, I got married and moved to Alaska. Then I moved to Texas, and then I moved to California, and had a couple of spouse changes along the way while I was doing that. And a couple of these moves necessitated me leaving behind a huge amount of my worldly goods, if not all of them. In fact, on one of them, what didn't fit in the car didn't make it back home. When we got custody of my granddaughter Kinsey when she was 11, that was a huge transition. And as tough as that girl is, she came from a rough situation. I didn't know how rough it was until after we got her. And she desperately needed me to be her rock, the loving grandmother, the nurturer, the trustworthy person that she could rely on. At the same time, as I was dealing with trying to learn how to become a mom, grandma to a girl instead of, I raised boys, my husband was sinking into the depths of depression that morphed into bipolar depression, and that's been a fun ride along the way too. So during that part of it, we were living in a camper on a 40-acre plot, and the only source of water was the spigot down by the vineyard that we had planted. So there's lots of transitions and lots of reasons to pivot. And I know that all of you have your reasons, your transitions too. Kinsey's now 18 years old. She is a senior in high school. She's looking to go to college. And the college she is looking at, oh my gosh, it hurts me to even think about that one. But it is what it is. Like all mothers, I love my boys. I always have, always will. Of course, any mother, you always love your children. It was not always easy for my boys growing up with me because most of the time that they were growing up, I was a single mom and basically worked 80 and 90 hours a week to try to put food on the table and keep a roof over the head. So it's hard to be a good mother when you're doing that, and under those conditions, they had to pay the price for that. But this is different. Kinsey was different for me. I was home. I was there, and even though I didn't know anything about raising girls, which was, oh my gosh, it was totally different for me, especially a girl that needed as much attention as she did in the beginning. I will say again, over and over again, the ladies at the church that I had come to go to were so good to me and helped guide me, and how, seriously, they've been the best, and they've got me through a lot with that girl. And so while I was learning how to be a grandma and stuff, so I appreciate those ladies. because I wasn't just grandma anymore. I became the nurturer, the enforcer, the healer, the confidant. And I'm learning that there are a lot of grandparents out there that have to go, that are doing the same thing, and that's very sad. Regardless, I have come to love this girl like I've never loved anyone in my life. But she's grown now, and I need to understand that. She's leaving for college, and I want her to go into the world. I want her to fly on her own. I want her to fall down and learn how to get back up. I want her to follow her dreams. I want her to be happy. I want all of that for her. We have become about as close as two really hurt people could ever become. And when she goes, and I want her to go, I will miss her terribly. So that's my transition that I must make at this time. What are my plans on this transition? Well, I'm getting older. My joints hurt. The work I do hurts, and it's hard work, and I'm tired. It's getting harder for me. I can't take care of all this acreage by myself, especially with the type of equipment that I have. So I realize that this is too much for me to do on my own, and then I can't always count on Tom to be there to help me in one form or another. So I want to travel. I love my property out here, guys. I love it. And I will still work on it, and I will still maintain it to the best of my ability, which is not good, but I'm going to try it anyway. But I'm also going to work really hard toward getting a van that I can turn into a camper van, so I can travel and look at and enjoy the world. I want to be able to drive to Jacksonville area and visit my brother without having to worry about spending the night in his house and being in his way. I want to be able to drive to Texas and visit my sister and do the same thing. And if my mom and dad are still alive, I want to be able to go visit them and have my own van. I want a van because I don't want like a Class B where it's even a little bit wide. Something I can drive, so not as wide. And everybody even my brother's going, get a camper and pull it. Child, I can't back a trailer. I can't back a camper. I can't back anything. If you were to put a gun to my head and tell me that if you don't back this thing up properly, then you're going to die, and I'd say, pull the trigger. I have practiced and practiced and practiced. There's something missing here. I can't back anything. So if I get it, I don't know if you can tell, but I put a lot of thought into this. If I have a van, it's a certain width. It is going to be taller, so I'll have to deal with the wind, and it's going to be longer. The one I want is going to be longer. But I really believe after all of the videos that I've watched and stuff, I believe I can make a really nice camper van relatively inexpensively. Man, some of those camper vans that they want for them are outrageous prices, but they're getting really cool bells and whistles and just a lot of really interesting materials in it. I want to go, I don't want to go fancy. I do want solar. I want to be able to have a good heater. I want to be able to have a good cook stove and all that other stuff. But I really do, with all the videos I watched, I think I can make that size of space. I can make it into something I can live in if that's what I need to do. And I will design it so that if Tom wants to come with me, he can, because he's always invited. So my word of the year is transition. Hoping to be able to start working toward getting that van. I'm hoping that Kinsey, as she continues to grow and live, and leave, and she has made an indication that she does want to leave, and I don't blame her. I did the same thing whenever I was old enough and had graduated. I moved out, and I was ready to start life. She's ready to start life. So that's our transition. That's my word for the year is transition. I would like to hear what your I would like to hear what your word of the year is, and you can email me theciaellis at gmail.com. theciaellis. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. I really do hope that you, maybe even if you're getting older, you're alive, get going, find a word to focus on, do some introspection, do some thinking about it, and live until you die. This is all we got. All right, guys. God bless. I'll see you next time.